You know, it's been 2 years. 2 years since I sold Stomper, the 1984 Toyota Tercel SR5 wagon. And to be honest, I always wonder what happened to it. By some dumb luck, we found it again. 2.5 hours away, left abandoned. So when I last owned the car, we had done quite a bit of work to it. This is before I started my YouTube channel. And we bought the car about a half hour away from where I live. We proceeded to do some new CV shafts, inner and outer tie rods, ball joints, and we had to swap the carburetor. We ended up installing a Weber carburetor off of the 1983 Toyota I had purchased about a month before to get this one running better so I could use it as a daily. And then I decided to lift it. But that's when I caused a lot of problems. Lifting the car was cool, but kind of showed the car was worn out. Being a 1984, it had 330,000 miles on the chassis. Not sure how many miles the engine had. It looked like it had 300,000 miles on the engine. It was leaking oil. We took it off-roading one day in the snow, got it stuck, and smoked the clutch. And I still had the engine I was working on for the 83. And we decided to put it together and put it in Stomper when we changed the clutch, since the engine had to come out. That opened up so many more problems. You'd think with a freshly rebuilt engine, you'd be good, but unfortunately, we didn't tune the carburetor just right, and it wouldn't run correctly and wouldn't do highway speeds anymore. I did run a larger tire, but it still wouldn't hold 65 miles an hour, and it just seemed really low on power. Eventually we figured out the cause of that. The timing was off, and the carburetor needed to be jetted. But unfortunately, before I could do that, I sold it. Fast forward 2 years later, and now it's back in the bearded wrencher, Luke, in my possession, figuratively. It's actually over at Triumph by Error across the state of Michigan. So we're gonna plan to go out there next weekend and get it running and drive it 2.5 hours home. All we know is the person said it had no brakes and it wouldn't run and it needed an alternator. So we're hoping with our knowledge of what we've learned on a few rescues so far this year, we can drive it home. So stay tuned for the video coming out of us driving over to Triumph by Error and putting our eyes on the car for the first time in 2 years. I'm really hoping that we can get it running and drive it home. The car has changed hands about 4 times since I sold it 2 years ago. The parts car that was supposed to be the donor body has somehow disappeared. We don't know where it ended up at. But we have our work cut out for us. The car was pretty rough when I sold it, and it's even rougher now. We do know that about 6 months after I sold it, they overheated the car and blew the head gasket. I'm really hoping there's no damage to the engine or the head, since the engine has new bearings and new rings in the pistons. The head was ported and polished, and a couple other things done to it for a little bit more power. So we're going to take a jet kit with us as well for this Weber and hopefully get it going and drive it home. So stay tuned for that. And we're going to have a video series on Stomper's Revival. We're going to do some brake upgrades. We're going to change the suspension, take the lift off, and do it a different way this time. So that instead of 2.5 inches of lift, we have about 1.5 inches. It's going to be better a highway car for some road trips, and we're going to do some custom touches to it. We do need to fix the rusted out rocker panels. The doors were rusted, had holes in them, not like on the bottom, like actually on the sides of them. So we've got to find some doors. And we've got to figure out, most importantly, why the car has no heat. When I owned it, I did a heater core, changed the blower box, went through the entire HVAC system, coolant lines, a radiator, a water pump, a thermostat, the valve on the firewall. Still, no heat. It was brutal driving it in the winter. It would get to about 45 degrees max temp while moving down the road inside the car. So I was always bundled up in snowmobile gear. So, yeah, lots of work. Should be a few part series, maybe 5 or 10 different small videos on things that we're doing. I am going to learn how to weld to repair these rocker panels. So enjoy that, because we're going to be learning together. If you know how to weld sheet metal and you can give me any kind of pointers, feel free to comment down below in the word spot. Follow us on Instagram at the Lemons Little Yikes. And hope to see you guys soon. Please like the video, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.